Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever just stopped and wondered how a planet with almost 200 countries and 8 billion people actually works? Without completely falling apart? Well, today we're digging into the system that tries to keep it all running. Think of it as the world's essential, but let's be honest, sometimes very buggy operating system: international organizations.
All right, first up, a world of shared problems. Before we can even get into what these organizations are, we really have to understand why they even exist in the first place.
And this is the fundamental question that drives everything we're talking about today. Think about it. Viruses don't carry passports. Carbon emissions don't stop at customs. And a financial shock can circle the entire globe in an instant. So, what do you do about that?
Look at the challenges we all face together. We're talking about pandemics, a changing climate, economic meltdowns, and the terrifying possibility of war. These are threats that are just way too big for any single nation to handle on its own. It doesn't matter how rich or powerful you are, no one country has all the answers. Okay, so in response to all those shared problems, humanity tried to build this global operating system to manage our incredibly complex, interconnected world. So what exactly is an international organization? Well, at its core, it's just a formal setup where countries, and sometimes other groups, can come together. It's a place to create rules, coordinate what they're going to do, and try to tackle those huge problems we just mentioned. It's basically the software for global governance. And here's where it gets wild. This operating system is absolutely massive. We're not talking about just a handful of groups here. When you count the non-governmental organizations too, there are over 70,000 of these things out there. It's a sprawling, complex, and sometimes messy and overlapping network. So it's really crucial to get the two main types. On one side, you have intergovernmental organizations, or IGOs. These are the big ones created by governments. Think the UN or NATO. Then, on the other side, you have international non-governmental organizations, INGOs, which are started by private citizens or groups, like the Red Cross or Amnesty International. So one is government to government, and the other is more like people to people. Now, you might think this whole system was designed in some peaceful, quiet laboratory, but no. The reality is that it was forged in the fire of the world's most devastating conflicts.
The idea really started with diplomacy, but then it got practical. These early technical unions were like the world's first apps. They weren't about stopping wars, but about making sure a telegram sent from Paris could actually be read in New York. A simple idea, but totally revolutionary. But then, after the absolute catastrophe of World War I, the world tried its first grand experiment, the League of Nations. And it failed. So after the even greater horror of World War II, the world tried again, creating the United Nations, the World Bank, and the IMF. Institutions that had the lessons of that failure literally built into their DNA.
All right, so we've covered the why and the how. Now let's meet some of the who.
Here are just a few of the heavy hitters you've definitely heard of. You've got the United Nations, trying to keep peace and security. The World Trade Organization, which sets the rules for the global economy. The World Health Organization, our global first line of defense against pandemics. And of course, the European Union, which is maybe the most ambitious experiment in regional cooperation ever. Each one is a massive piece of this global puzzle.
And this work isn't just about talk and fancy buildings, it's deeply human. Just think about this number for a second. That's over 80,000 people, UN peacekeepers, out there right now in some of the world's toughest spots. They are the actual human hardware of this system, trying to manage conflict right there on the ground. Okay, so remember I said at the beginning that this is a buggy operating system? Well, let's talk about those bugs, because for all its successes, it has some really deep structural flaws. So, there are three major problems we need to wrap our heads around. First, there's a huge power imbalance. A few powerful countries can pretty much dominate everything, like with the veto power at the UN Security Council, where a single country's no can stop the entire world from acting. Second, these places are massive bureaucracies. They can be incredibly slow and get stuck in gridlock. And third, and this might be the biggest bug of all, is the enforcement gap. They can make rules, sure, but they have no global police force to make countries actually follow them.
And this point here just perfectly captures that power imbalance issue. The most powerful body in the entire UN, the Security Council, is still basically a snapshot of who won World War II in 1945. Major rising powers from places like Africa, Asia, and Latin America, they don't have a permanent seat at the main table. And that, understandably, leads to a real crisis of legitimacy.
So, where does that leave us? The world is changing faster than ever.
The big question now is, can this 20th century operating system actually get an update? Can it adapt?
Because the challenges hitting us today are totally new and unbelievably complex. How do you govern AI when it's developing faster than any law can be written? How do you secure a digital world that has no borders? And what happens to these old institutions when rising powers start building their own alternatives, basically challenging the whole system?
And this is the question I really want to leave you with. This global operating system, for all its flaws, has helped prevent a third world war and connected humanity in ways that were once unimaginable. But as we stare down the challenges of tomorrow, the single biggest question is whether this system, built for the world of yesterday, can be reformed, updated, in time. Can it handle the future? The answer to that is going to define the century ahead.